like we call each other brothers for a reason, right? And that's a biblical word for a pastor, and that's really worth reinforcing. My approach might be a little bit abrasive. I think we kind of need to toughen up a little bit, and so I'm just thinking about like my relationship with my brother. Like we love each other to pieces. He's 6.5 years older than I am, but how we learned to love each other was by wrestling. And that's a great biblical image. You think of God wrestling with Jacob. And so I think like we pastors start to need to wrestle with each other, either physically. I mean, like if Jameson Hardy is listening to this, I know he just wants to beat somebody up as a professional wrestler. So man, go for it. Jameson, I will gladly meet you in the ring. Let's do it. Let's do it, old man. But it doesn't even have to be that. It's just like kind of this like verbal sparring where we can just say things to each other in this way where we know it's not going to hurt each other. And like we've been trying to talk about our preaching this way too. And it can be a little bit hurtful at first, but just having some honesty with each other. Hey, this worked in your sermon. This didn't. That kind of a thing. Well, I'm probably, maybe sometimes I don't come across as the most friendly at first. But somebody told me the other day that somehow everybody some way becomes my friend, even though I boo them when they're at the lectern.
Welcome to Synod Stories, a show about the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, where it's been, where it is, and where it's going. Besides learning about the Lutheran Church convention that's coming next year, I started this podcast to learn more about the Synod at the circuit level. To that end, I have Pastor Joshua Reber, pastor of Faith Lutheran Church in St. Cloud, Minnesota, and Trinity Lutheran Church in Clear Lake, Minnesota. He's a graduate of Concordia Theological Seminary in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he is circuit visitor of the St. Cloud Circuit in the Minnesota North District. Pastor Reber, welcome and thank you for being here.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on. Delighted to be here.
All right, so just so I can get my bearings, I'd like to ask you some really basic questions about the circuit. So where are you located geographically, and what is the general characteristic of the area? Is it urban, rural, suburban? What's it like?
Sure. So we're just called Central Minnesota is how the region's described. So an hour northwest of the Twin Cities, and it's just up 94 is where St. Cloud is. So if you've ever done the drive between the Twin Cities and Fargo, you've passed through St. Cloud. And demographic wise, I think the metro of St. Cloud's about 200,000, and I'm not sure exactly how far that goes. St. Cloud itself is a city of 70,000. And there's 4 Lutheran Church Missouri Synod churches in St. Cloud, but then there's several suburbs, so Sartell, Sauk Rapids. But our circuit doesn't cross the river, and they kind of change that. So if you've ever been in a river town, you know it screws up the roads, and that's what we're dealing with in St. Cloud. So that's the city itself. We're big enough to have a Costco. So when I got the call outside of seminary to come here, I knew there was a Costco in St. Cloud. So I was like, all right, that's a place to stay.
So how many congregations are in your circuit?
10.
Okay. And then are there any of them that are currently calling or vacant?
Yes. So we got 2 vacant congregations, and one just issued a call a week and a half ago. So they're waiting to hear back. And if he's listening, I hope you take it. He's a good friend of mine. So that would be great. And then the other congregation is kind of early in the call process, and we'll see what kind of direction they look to go in.
Okay. And what's the kind of the range of this congregational sizes?
Yeah. So I'm the only dual parish. So I always tell the other guys that I work twice as hard as they do. And if I count my campus ministry, which I do at our state university here in St. Cloud, then I'll tell them I work 3 times as hard. But that never really motivates them too much. They're like, yeah, whatever. So my congregations are probably on the smaller side, although some congregations are being served by part-time guys. But I would say probably 50 to 60 on a Sunday is the smaller end of the spectrum, and then trying to think Holy Cross in St. Cloud and Love of Christ in St. Cloud. I think they're about the same size, and they're probably 400 to 500 maybe on a Sunday. Those are rough guesstimates. So we kind of fill that small church size all the way to the big church
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And then so you're the only multi-point parish. How did your multi-point come about? Is it through mission vacancy? How did that come about?
So actually, back in the 50s, Clear Lake, which is where I am right now, they helped plant a church on the southeast side of St. Cloud, and that became Faith. And so that was 1958, and when they did that, they were a dual parish from the beginning. And reading through the minutes, one of the pastors here was retiring, and they begged him, could we just meet in your basement until you fully retire? So that's how Faith in St. Cloud started. And they worked with was it the Minnesota district? I got to look up my history. It might have been Minnesota North, because around that same time, the districts actually split into two. And so they were a dual parish in the very beginning. And then sometime in the early 70s, they broke up and became single point parishes. And then they reunited my predecessor back in 2013. And it's mostly a financial thing. And together they're able to support a pastor by themselves, which is great.
And so for your Winkles, or I don't know what you call Winkle circuit, meaning whatever.
We call them Winkles because
Okay.
it's fun to say.
Okay. So how is that general, is it attended well? What's participation?
Yeah, it's great. Like if guys are able to come, everybody shows up. And there's one exception. That guy's an SMP guy, and he is the mayor of the town, and he also works for the post office.
Wow.
So that's his part-time thing, but he's retiring. So now the hope is that he can join us every single month, which would be great. So we really do have pretty much 100% participation at our Winkles, and obviously exceptions, guys have whatever going on. But I think that's really, really good. And if guys aren't participating, we've kind of built up the ethos here. We're gonna call you out on it.
Very good, very good. And what kind of topics or theological issues do you typically discuss? What do you guys go through?
Yeah, so we like to have a Bible study. So we pick a book of the Bible to go through. Last year we went through Ezekiel. That was fun. And then 1 John is what we just finished, and we're about to start going through the Gospel of Luke. So we always have that gospel, the Bible reading component, which is just great reading the Bible together. And we always start with worship. So my district president told me the biggest thing is that you guys worship together, you pray together, and then you're in the Word together. And so make sure to hit all those things. And then we try to do a topical thing. So sometimes that's a book. So we read through Pastor Heath Curtis's book on homiletics. He's the Southern Illinois district president. We read through that last year, and that got us to talking about preaching, which is always fruitful because that's our main point of contact, how we share the Word of God with as many people as possible on Sunday morning. And then we're about to, starting this month, we're going to go through the Formula of Concord. That's going to be our topical study.
Very good. So, and kind of a last question in this circuit-wide kind of thing. How good is the uniformity of practice across your circuit?
Oh, I would say it's very, very, very good. So we've got 10 congregations, and 9 of them, so 90% of us are using services just found in Lutheran Service Book.
Very good, very good. Nice to hear. So what drew me to request this interview was hearing your interview on another podcast and how your congregations and your circuit really interact and work with each other. So kind of tell me more about that. It was really interesting.
Yeah, so I guess it kind of started when I was on vicarage in Howard Lake, which is just 50 minutes south of us. So I talked to my supervisor still often. It's great being so close to him. We tried a circuit-wide Ascension Day service with the circuit, and was it Ascension, or it might have been Easter Vigil as well, but just this idea of having a circuit-wide service for services that are important but not widely attended, because Ascension always happens on a Thursday, right? And so it's nice to get the really faithful together, these 10 congregations. So I took that idea and I was like, well, why don't we have a circuit-wide Ascension Day service here? And that started 4 or 5 years ago. We held it here in Clear Lake, and it was great. I mean, we had people from probably 6 congregations showed up, and it's just kind of been a tradition now. Every year on Ascension Day, we have a circuit-wide Ascension Day service, well attended by the clergy and the lay people. Always a reception afterwards, and they enjoyed getting to know each other. So I always look forward to that. And then 3 years ago, we started talking as pastors, and we just like to hang out as guys. Like, we love each other as friends, which I think is really, really important. So we're at a bar getting ready for Advent or Lent one year, because we decided, hey, let's pick a text to go through for our midweek services. And we're like, hey, this is really fun. What if we like just started a newsletter? Because we like to write. And so that was kind of the advent of that. And we started a newsletter two years ago, and us pastors, is an opportunity for us to work on something together, gas off, and try to get the laity to participate in something theological.
So do you know how common that is across the Synod? I had never heard it, but I'm kind of isolated here on the West Coast, but I haven't heard much of that much cooperation amongst a circuit.
Yeah, I always tell people we've got the best circuit newsletter in the Synod, and I'm aware it's probably one of the only ones. Now, I inspired my friend. He was up in Crookston, Minnesota, to start his own circuit newsletter, and then he took a call a couple months ago. So that circuit newsletter fell apart. So we're the few, the proud, the St. Cloud Circuit.
Very nice, very nice. I think one of an LCMS pastor I follow on X, he does SEO work, and his recommendation was to have a circuit website so that the congregations could have external links to their congregation and help with their search engine optimization stuff. So you guys are kind of on that path.
Cool. That's great to hear. Yeah, I always talk about SEO stuff with whatever videos you post, and then you can localize it so you're actually trying to hit people in your geographical area.
And so besides the service, the service idea is like a fantastic. Sounds like the perfect way to start building these relationships. What other things have you done on top of those that? And the letter as well, but like especially I'm thinking between the laity, because as we, especially out here on the West Coast, we're isolated, and as we get more isolated, like having the mutual consolation of the saints is kind of important, and we're not used to that because it was never part of our DNA, right? We could stand alone. We were very good at that, but now as we kind of more feel like islands, we need that consolation. So what have you guys done things in terms of getting the laity together?
Yeah, so down in Fairhaven, Concordia, Fairhaven, my good friend, he took a call to Little Rock, Arkansas, a couple months ago, but he decided to host a men's retreat for anybody and everybody, particularly advertised to the laity of the circuit. And so the first one was in February, and there was a second one in, July? Those are pretty well attended by the laity, and not exclusively St. Cloud Circuit. We had guys come from all across the state, but it was a men's retreat where we had athletic competition, and that was great.
That sounds wonderful. Yeah. So, and you sound like you are very friendly with all the fellow pastors. Is that common or how have you experienced that previously? And how do you guys foster that in your circuit?
I think so. We call each other brothers for a reason, right? And that's a biblical word for a pastor, and that's really worth reinforcing. My approach might be a little bit abrasive. I think we kind of need to toughen up a little bit, and so I'm just thinking about like my relationship with my brother. Like we love each other to pieces. He's 6.5 years older than I am, but how we learned to love each other was by wrestling. And that's a great biblical image. You think of God wrestling with Jacob. And so I think like we pastors start to need to wrestle with each other, either physically. I mean, like if Jameson Hardy is listening to this, I know he just wants to beat somebody up as a professional wrestler. So man, go for it. Jameson, I will gladly meet you in the ring. Let's do it. Let's do it, old man. But it doesn't even have to be that. It's just like kind of this like verbal sparring where we can just say things to each other in this way where we know it's not going to hurt each other. And like we've been trying to talk about our preaching this way too. And it can be a little bit hurtful at first, but just having some honesty with each other. Hey, this worked in your sermon. This didn't. That kind of a thing. Well, I'm probably, maybe sometimes I don't don't come across as the most friendly at first. But somebody told me the other day that somehow everybody, some way, becomes my friend, even though I boo them when they're at the lectern.
So, what are some of your greatest joys and blessings you've seen in the life of your circuit?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, just celebrating with the brothers when something exciting happens. Like, so it's really informal. You got a group chat with some of the guys or whatever. But I love hearing these stories about, I had 5 baptisms today or whatever it is. And of course, Jesus tells the parable of the lost sheep and the lost coin. It's like every time this happens, the angels in heaven celebrate. So if the angels are throwing a party, how should we react to these successes as well? So those are the greatest joys. And then also when great sorrows, when great challenges happen, everything that we have is from the Lord, both success and failure. And so there can be great joy in walking together in those sorrows as well. So we just talked through these things. I had a really tough funeral this summer, suicide, and then just being able to talk with the brothers about, hey, what did you do in this situation? And great joy actually did come out of that situation.
It's nice to hear. So, are there any significant challenges your congregations or your pastors are facing currently?
Yeah, I don't know if there are any unique to us. Probably the same story. You hear it a bunch. You know, numbers are down, finances, all that sort of a thing. But maybe it's just because we're, crazily optimistic. But we don't get too dour at our circuit meetings, and that's just because I can't stand it. It's like I can turn on the news and I can hear the complaints. So obviously we have challenges, and I mean, like, thinking through it from a biblical standpoint, it's always going to be sinful man is the biggest challenge to overcome. So I'd rather have people hearing the word of God and struggle with finances than having a lawless congregation, right?
Makes sense. Do you guys have any difficulty in pulpit supply?
So since we are mostly filled, so 8 out of 10 congregations are filled, it's not as big of an issue with us. There's lots of retired guys in the St. Cloud area. I think the further north you get in Minnesota, sometimes that gets to be a challenge, but we're pretty well taken care of here. If I need to find a guy for vacation, I usually don't need to make more than 2 calls.
Okay. Very nice to hear. So kind of going into your circuit visitor role, like what does the circuit visitor role for you entail, like on a week-to-week basis?
So yeah, I just became circuit visitor like a month ago, so I'm still I'm still figuring that out. So the month to month is organize the Winkle, and we got the schedule all laid out, and then it's just kind of like whatever arises. And so I take that rule seriously. So praying for the brothers every week by name is a big part of it. Just like I pray for my congregation members by name every week, and then just knowing what's going on. So it can be informal. We text. That's kind of, and then I talked to a lay guy on Saturday about their vacancy. So that's kind of what it looks like. Whatever, it's just like being a pastor. Whatever problems arise, deal with it then.
All right. And I think another topic you hit on in your other interview was the like taking care of the health and well-being of pastors and their family. So what kind of stuff are you focused on in that area?
Well, it's mostly out of selfish nature because I want to drive down our Concordia Plans premiums. And I mean, it's a lot of this isn't a surprise, and I hope this doesn't come across as too inflammatory, but oftentimes you notice pastors aren't in the best health. Like, you just go to a pastor's conference, and so if we're going to be healthy spiritually, like, physical health is a big component of that, because if you're not able to focus on things just like mentally with your physical brain, right, then that's going to affect how you do the spiritual stuff day to day. So it's really basic stuff. I like, for me personally, you told me you got up at what, 5:30?
Yeah.
That's when you get up. So that's really 7:30 on my time, and then two hours behind. So I try to get up at 5. It's a great time to go to the gym because I know nobody's gonna bother me then, and great time to get my Bible reading done and then go to the gym right away. And I'd encourage anybody to get on that plan, but everybody's schedule is different.
Yeah, very true, very true. So even though you're kind of new to the role, is there any reason you became the circuit visitor, or like something you wanted to see change, or something you like, something about the circuit visitor system that you wanted to, act on, or anything along those lines?
So sure, like I didn't want to change the world, although I do want to change the world. I guess becoming a circuit visitor is the best way to do that. So the district president asked me to do it, and I was open to it, and so I didn't get elected. I was just appointed, and what does Jesus say? Wisdom is justified by her deeds. So we'll see how the next 2 years go.
All right. So I did actually read your circuit newsletter, and I was looking through a previous one where it was talking through the Minnesota North District having a resolution on closed communion and the wording of it. So, I want to one thing that jumped out at me was the wording that it added: professing no doctrine contrary to that taught where they communion, and whose church membership reflects that confession. It sounds very particular in something you guys were targeting. What was the wording?
Sure. So I forget who wrote that. That might have been a guy up in Crosby, Minnesota. So it wasn't our circuit who wrote it. But I think the particular reason for that phrasing, it's targeting heterodox church bodies, and in particular in Minnesota, it'd probably be like the ELCA. Is probably what it's trying to address, because there's lots of Lutherans here in Minnesota, but obviously when you open your eyes and you look at ELCA, well, they have the name Lutheran, but we have nothing in common. So if you belong to a church body like that, the best thing to do is leave that fellowship and get to one that confesses the Bible as the Word of God. So I think that was the reason behind it. Do you buy it?
So this brings up something where I've been at a few churches, not my own, that have. I'll read you the statements that I've come across. So here's one of their statements: are you truly sorry for your sins? Do you believe your sins are forgiven because Jesus died for them? Do you believe that Jesus gives his own body and blood in the sacrament as a seal of forgiveness? Do you sincerely intend to better your Christian life? And if you answer to yes to all these questions, come and receive forgiveness, assurance, and strength from Jesus himself. And so I've been to some of these, and this was a statement that from a church that my wife and daughter went to recently, and I've seen the statement many times on YouTube services and things. And there's just like that part above where it talks about your membership reflecting your confession, and and whether your doctrine is contrary to what's taught where they're communing. I mean, this just leaves this huge hole. And in my lay brain, I see that this is what I'm hoping it's targeting, because it really frustrates me, because when I go to churches like this, and I had this discussion with my vicar, it's like, I don't know if I should commune there, because I don't know what your beliefs are actually. And so his suggestion was that, well, they have LCMS, and so then you assume that they're teaching LCMS statement, and it's because it's kind of like the laity when if I came to your congregation, I said I was a member in good standing at LCMS church, you kind of sign off and go. You may not fully go through the whole small catechism with me. You might just go, oh, he's an LCMS member, and so I trust. And so his argument was that, it's an LCMS church, so you have to have some trust behind it. But for me, as a layperson going there, I'm like, I see these people going up, and I have no idea whether I have anything, as far as a faith, in my confession. I don't know if it's at anywhere near what anyone else is by this statement. So sorry for that long-winded interjection.
No, that's great. Yeah, we talk about that kind of statement.
Okay.
Because think about who would qualify by agreeing to those 5 points, right? So certainly somebody in the ELCA probably would. So the one, let's say something positive about it, and then I'll critique it, because I don't think that's sufficient at all. But the positive thing is it's kind of an epitome of Luther's Christian questions and answers before receiving the sacrament, Right, and that's a healthy practice. And I always talk through the confirmands before this, like before you go to communion, hey, it'd be good for you. Go. There's a small catechism in the hymnal. Go through these 20 questions, and they kind of reflect some of those questions, right? Like, do you believe you're a sinner? Yes, I believe I'm a sinner. So that was kind of there. The problem is you're removing the pastor as a steward of the mysteries of God. Right, and so there's no accountability there. And then the quick rebuttal to that people have on the other side is, well, Paul tells us to examine ourselves, right? And you've probably heard that before too. Okay, that's true, but that doesn't remove the pastor's responsibility to examine you either, because he can't look into your heart, but you at least know a little bit of what's going on in there. So you're absolutely right. It's not sufficient. I think it's just kind of pastoral laziness, honestly. And I know how uncomfortable it is when guests show up to church on Sunday, and I'm either, it's either I'm scared or I'm really awkward with the conversation, but it's got to happen.
Okay. Yeah, I know that there's a segment of pastors that and I'm guessing most, or in some way, that like really don't want to be confrontational on Sunday morning, and so it makes it easier. But it also, for me as laity, I get confused by it, and not it really does not help me understand what's going on or what their beliefs are.
Yeah, absolutely. All my statement really says is, please talk to pastor before communing.
That's pretty much what our home church does. Is like we give the high level, but please talk to pastor before you commune if this is your first time.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can spell out. It's like, man, these churches that have open communion have a beautiful understanding of the real presence of Christ. It's a shame that nobody's reading it.
Yeah, and well, for me, all the other one is if your church membership, if you really do believe, there's not many church memberships that believe in the way that we believe in the real presence, right? And so if you really believe that, then why are you in fellowship with this other heterodox congregation or denomination or something along those lines? Yeah.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, it's about integrity.
Yeah.
Right. Do you actually, if you actually believe something, you should put your chest into it and then leave a church body and join one which reflects what you actually believe.
Yeah. Yeah. So another thing that at a high level kind of thing, and this comes along along the lines of that, the communion statement, but I've talked to a number of pastors and vicars, mostly the younger ones, and they talk about the old words were the confessional and missional distinctions. So right there's the confessional side and the missional side. And I think a lot of the younger has said that distinction doesn't apply anymore. And so I feel like there's still a divide. What are your thoughts on that those particular terms, and if those are obsolete terms, and if you have any idea of what better terms might fit these days?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to run into challenge with any labels that you use. And so for the sake of simplicity, the labels are helpful, especially when we're talking like in our denomination, because we kind of know what it means. And usually it's reflected in worship practice is all it means, because it, like missional, you could throw the word contemporary there. And then again, it's like, well, what does that term mean? Because isn't all worship contemporary worship if we're doing it now? Well, yeah, but like that's not what I mean by it, or traditional. Well, everything is traditional. It's just a matter of what traditions. So there clearly is a distinction happening. Just you walk into a church, what's it look like? Are they using the hymnal or not? And then what's their approach to evangelism? Those kinds of things. So I think it's a helpful label, but you're right. And I was talking to an older pastor about this a couple weeks ago. The worship wars have kind of cooled down a little bit. I think it's like we're not viciously attacking each other online anymore. There are exceptions, of course, but for the most part, we just kind of want to get along. And it used to be the seminaries were kind of the pools. So if you wanted to be confessional, you went to Fort Wayne. If you wanted to be missional, you go to St. Louis. And that's really not such the case anymore. And I've really seen a drastic change in the last 5 years, actually, of this. The seminary administrations have completely changed at both seminaries recently. So I know I went to Fort Wayne, proud of it. Our basketball team won. That's great. Happy to do it. I'll wear the blue and the white tie any day of the week, just like the St. Louis guys will wear the green and the gold. That's fine. But I know a lot of good, faithful St. Louis grads just within the last couple of years. In fact, I got really good St. Louis grads. So the distinction is there. But I think our generation is just kind of tired of fighting the surface level stuff, and we want to get to something deeper. Is the real thing we're trying to get to.
I think if I were to have my druthers, I guess, if you guys could fight about this communion practice stuff, I think that would actually clear up a lot of things, right? Because if what we considered the missional side cleaned up their communion practice, I think it would actually clean up the distinction a little bit. My hope would be that the contemporary worship kind of things would fade into the background. It would be less obvious that they were contemporary and feel more like just a service with maybe slightly different music or something along those lines.
Oh, that's great. Because when I talked to an ELS pastor about this, like what's preventing us from being in fellowship again, he said actually the biggest thing isn't women's suffrage.
Ooh.
He said that's kind of, he's like, you guys have to have women's bathrooms at your conventions, and we all laugh at that. That's fine, is what he said. But then he said that the biggest thing really was open communion being prevalent in our congregations. So I think you hit the nose right there.
All right. And then another kind of thing that's been kicked around lately is, and you have an SMP pastor, but the various paths to ordination. Have you guys talked about it in your circuit? Has that come up as a topic of discussion?
Not really. I mean, we all have our opinions on it, and I think the biggest thing we're lacking is clarity. So, how many paths to ordination are there? Is it like 15? I mean, I know it's more than 10. Like it's somewhere around there.
Yeah, there are a lot, because there was some that I didn't even know about until just this past year. My daughter goes to Concordia Irvine, and they have the 4-year vicarage thing that I was at a service where the vicar was installed, and I was like, whoa, I never even heard of this 4-year where you're there you're a vicar for 4 years. And I was like, whoa, that was different.
Yeah, one of my really good friends from college got his DCE certification and is working at a church in Chula Vista, just outside of San Diego there. And he's enrolled in the Irvine program right now. And that was just for the sake of geography. Like, I think we've got to be flexible on it while also maintaining a standard. So, like, just for the sake of principle, I'm not against another route of ordination. It's just you always have to ask the question, like, why are we doing this, and what's the integrity behind it? Because, like, going to the seminary, sometimes it felt a little stilted. It's like you guys haven't been pastors, and well, some of you never served in the parish. And so there's definitely a disadvantage to that as well. So I could see where having guys in the field that teach seminary classes out there, that could be advantageous. So I'm flexible, but not morally flexible.
Yeah, I think the thing that gets to me is like if there with so many paths, then the consistency is kind of like it's all over the place, and it's harder for us to know what we're going to get or what it looks like or what to expect.
Oh, absolutely. And then part of the problem is what's on paper isn't actually what's being practiced. So like the SMP program, specific ministry pastor, right? But most of the time what it's used for is huge congregations to get another associate. And maybe they could like rewrite it. But the problem is if you say you're doing one thing and doing another, that just opens yourself up to lawlessness.
Yeah, that was one of my pastor's complaints. And something I saw recently online, someone was like, oh, I love that we have 2 SMP pastors in our, I'm like, how did you get 2 in one congregation? And like you said, they're associates to a senior. I'm like, that's really not, and my pastor's from the Michigan, from Michigan. And he, like no congregation in the Michigan district should have an SMP. It just makes it doesn't make sense. That's not at all what it was meant for.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And then part of the congregation is these lay licensed deacons.
Oh.
So I know in Michigan, all of the lay licensed deacons, I don't even know if they made them go through the SMP program itself, but that's the route they took to ordination to fix it. So it was kind of a quick fix, but then all sorts of questions come up.
Okay. So, and one of the things you mentioned was the, like some of the seminary professors, they're kind of, they haven't been in the parish for a while. And so this came up. And I don't know if you want to talk to it directly, but in this, there was this, the Pastor Bierman discussion on it was the Christian nationalism one I'll go with, but his description of Christian nationalism kind of is like what I was used to in the early 2000s. His description is like, the church, the American flag and the chancel and those kind of things. And so it's like the contemporary argumentation is way different from what seminary professors think it is, I think, in some regard.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that really shined through in that debate, because Ramirez was quoting all of the books about Christian nationalism written in the last 5 years, particularly Moscow, Idaho, which is where the conversation's really happening. And Ramirez knew the issues, but then you're right. Yeah, Bierman had this old understanding of it, and so they were kind of talking past each other in a sense. Although I know David knew what he was talking about, so that was frustrating in a sense, because that's not at all what's happening. It's not this like, let's put an American flag in the chancel thing. I think the question's really simple. It's like, do you think that the country should be governed by God's laws or not? Is kind of the basic question.
So then that kind of brings me to yet another we're getting a little spicy here, I guess. But the Lutherans, the large catechism with annotations and contemporary applications. Was there? Did you guys discuss that in your circuit? When it was coming up, when that was a big thing, and does it still echo around in your circuit?
Yeah, we made fun of it. That's what we did. We're like, man, you could do a whole podcast series on the annotated large catechism. It was just a bad idea, and then some of the articles were troublesome. And then to make matters worse, like, two things can be true at the same time. So at the same time, you've got people calling it out who may or may not be associated with Corey Mahler, who, man, what a gross sect of Lutheranism that's become. But just because somebody who's grossly wrong about something has a critique doesn't mean that the critique itself is wrong. And so those two things got conflated. And so this is very frustrating as clergy, because we were just watching it and like, man, all of these issues are getting conflated, where all of a sudden you get a letter coming out saying that the alt-right is behind this movement, a term that hasn't been used since 2018. It's been a while. Like, talk about being out of touch a little bit. So yeah, now we're getting spicy. You're going to get me in trouble.
That's definitely not my intent, but it's interesting to hear what anyone will comment on.
Oh yeah, sure. We should be having like these conversations open.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I think like I mentioned, you went on this other podcast that is definitely not aligned with like kind of how we would see things, I guess. But having these conversations, and like you said, being able to talk about things and being able to talk and disagree and not just like, rage quit the interview kind of thing is kind of a lost art almost. It shouldn't be at all, but it is. It seems like unless you're my friend 100%, I don't have to talk to you kind of thing. I think that's a product of our internet day and age, is like people don't have, since you can isolate yourself, people will and can get just like 100%, agreement on from whatever perspective they want to have.
Yeah. I'll talk to anyone, anywhere, and that, like, just because you're associated with someone doesn't mean that you agree with 100. Like, I don't know you. You seem like a great guy, just based on the little bit, and we'd probably be in agreement with 99% of things. But maybe you like the Dodgers, and I would accuse you of being a fair weather fan. So. He shook his head.
No, I'm a Giants guy. I grew up in.
Oh,
I grew up in.
Now we really can't be friends, because I root for the Texas Rangers.
Oh man.
And man, you guys smoked us. I'm still not over it.
Yeah, I grew up in San Francisco. That the bastion of liberalism. It's just bizarre that I came out the way I did.
Hey, praise God.
Yes, definitely. So looking ahead to the 2026 convention, have you guys done your delegate nomination or elections and things like that?
Yep, we just had it on Sunday.
All right, very good, very good. And then, so looking ahead to that convention, do you see any issues or anticipate anything coming down the line that might affect your circuit or anything in the synod you're kind of looking to be affected?
That's a good question, and I'm not informed, because I know the last one was like the Concordia University system in Concordia, Texas, like synod convention. What are the hot topics
I think
upcoming,
that,
do you know?
once again, still the path to ordination is going to be on there. I've seen a bunch of stuff where they're talking about the I forget what it's called. You're the ordained and what's the other minister, commission minister, like giving them commission ministers more of a say, like having them be voting, the ability to become voting delegates and things along those lines. I'm not sure what that I'm not. It's very American democratic to want everyone to have their voice. I guess that's what's coming up. I'm not sure why that necessarily has to be, but it's something that's coming up.
I know. I often think about this. Like, is the voters' assembly good? And I think it's great to have lay participation because it's an acknowledgement that you are the church, you are a part of the body of Christ, right? Like that's the good side of it. And I think our polity is helpful in that way. But then I often wonders, like, we don't vote on doctrinal matters.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a guard. It's a check to make sure that we don't have a tyrant step up either, which is good.
So, how does your circuit? How does it interact with your district and synod itself? Do you guys have much going back and forth with them, or any need to work through or with district and synod?
Yeah. So our district is great. We love the Minnesota North one, and so that's where it begins. We're very active at our district convention writing resolutions. So did we submit, was it 7 or 8 resolutions last time? And so very active in that regard. When you get to the synodical level, it's almost too big. So yeah, you sent me this email last week and I go, who in the world is this guy? And I'm glad you sent me a message, but it's oftentimes like who you went to school with, but like on a circuit level and on a district level, it's very easy because I can know those guys. On a national level, it's just a lot more challenging. So yeah, very involved on the district level for sure. And we're very interested in strengthening every congregation in our circuit so that the district can be healthy too.
So you talked about, you were saying that you were doing some work at your school. I mean, at the local college in St. Cloud, right? And so, yeah. What is that kind of what work? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I got a Bible study on campus on Tuesday nights, and this is my 5th year doing it, and it's been wonderful, a huge blessing to our congregations, and this year has been really great. We've had 15, 18, a dozen or so students attend Bible study, and I've had a baptism result of it and some instruction leading to communion come out of it for a couple students, and I'm about to start a new instruction with another student tomorrow, which is really exciting. I love it. That's what you celebrate as a pastor. And this year has been great because we've had more college students come to church now. So many Sundays, I've got 8 baseball players from the college attend church. So we're one shy of a baseball team, and we are going to have the greatest church league softball team that the Missouri Synod has ever known. And I will challenge anybody, and we are not going to take it easy on you at all.
So that's really interesting because our vicar does a Bible study with the San Jose State. So
oh yeah,
they're right down,
right?
Yeah. So they're down there, and he's found that, and I don't know if you found this too, but like the zeitgeist talking about young men coming back to church, it's been really true for him. And for us, it's resulted in, I think, in 4 confirmations, adult confirmations and stuff like that. And so have you seen it being largely male driven?
Yeah, for sure. Last night did we have a dozen students there and two girls? So it was, last year was better. We had a little more, and that was unusual to only have 2. Although for a while I only had 1 girl show up, and that was fine because it was great because you can have conversations guy to guy that you can't have with a mixed group. So yeah, for sure. I mean, the guys are really enthusiastic because they need a place to direct their masculinity. I always tell the guys, you walk into St. Cloud State, you go into the men's room, and there's a tampon dispenser. And they think it's the most ridiculous thing in the world, and we're able to have a chuckle about it. But like just the very idea of masculinity is always being challenged, and so it's been so good having them direct their energy towards something positive and godly.
All right. Well, that's pretty much all I had in terms of questioning. Pastor, do you have anything you wanted to pitch or you know?
Oh gosh, I think the big thing is let's start reading the Bible again. Make the Bible great again. And so that's like my favorite thing to do as a pastor is reading the Bible with others. So that would be my encouragement. And if you want a podcast to listen to the Bible on, go check out the Cloudcast where I talk about the Bible with Pastor David Bukes.
All right, I will put links to that podcast in the show notes. And I just want to thank you again for agreeing to participate from some guy that came out of the blue. So thank you so much.
Hey, appreciate having you on, and maybe we can talk sometime again soon.
All right. Thank you, Pastor.
Yeah, thanks.